I gotta lower the music on that slowly. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming here today. This is Big Fat Panda show number 74. The number's going to go up obviously quick because now it's weekly instead of monthly. I'm looking, I see Robe, I see Brandon, I see Susan. So my guest today, by the way, there's two guests today, but there's really one main guest. But I also brought a friend that has connected both of us together today. So Alan Delinka from Mouse Planet will be joining. But today my guest is, now you guys may know her as the Hat Lady. You may know her as the Piano Lady. I know her as the wonderful lady from the Comedy Warehouse, Carol Stein. She has been a part of my life, but not just a musical part of my life. She's somebody that I knew, I don't know if I was in my late teens. I just knew there was something special about her. When she would do the music at the Comedy Warehouse, you just knew this lady loves what she does, and she's bringing a specialness to it that could not just be put on by anybody. And I don't know why you knew this. I really don't. Maybe you could tell me in the chat, because if you feel the same way, I need to know. So when the Comedy Warehouse closed up and Disney Springs went away, we got people started talking about the Hat Lady. I had no idea it was her. I was so happy that in the UK, there is now the Hat Lady. I just wish there was more space in there for me to get in there all the time to see her. But let's welcome very quickly Carol Stein, who I have to tell you, hi, Carol.
Hi, everybody. Hi.
Carol is out RVing on an adventure. Her and her husband. You know, Carol, you always used to do cruises. This is like your version of your own cruise. This is like your cabin on the water, land, and you just get to go wherever you want. You get to make up your itinerary as you go.
Well, I went from living in 5-star hotels in Hong Kong to living in an RV going to Walmart every day.
Okay, let's be serious, Carol. That RV doesn't look like it's a 3-star. That looks like a really nice RV.
It's quite charming.
It
Lee
is.
and I are having a blast. We are having so much fun discovering all these little towns and beautiful rivers and fishing and walks through the forest and visiting friends. It's fabulous.
I actually thought that walk in the forest that you showed me with the birds, I thought maybe that was fake because the birds sounded amazing.
It's the best thing about waking up in these RV parks is it's so quiet and you wake up to the birds singing. And
so the best part of waking up,
gorgeous.
The best part of waking up is not just Folgers in your cup. I'm just going to bring Alan in so he could sit and watch the music with us so he doesn't have to feel left out. Alan Delinka, my friend from Mouse Planet. How are you?
Good. It's Carol Stein on the keys. Wait, that way. There we go.
You know, there's no way to get Carol in the middle to get rid of I'm going to get rid of the Panda. Hold on. It can't be blocking Carol.
I was going to say the only way to make, I can teach you some more about StreamYard, Panda, but the key to making your guest large is actually eliminating yourself from the screen, and it sucks, right? You as the host want to have your guest highlighted, not yourself. And StreamYard, that's like one of its quirks. That's the only way to do it.
You know what, though? For a little while, I can do that with Carol for a little while. That looks good, actually. No, I will. When we get to some music, I will. The people are already saying things. Carol, I know Carol, you can't see this if I put these on there on the screen, right? You're too far away to read the comments.
I have glasses on, but I don't.
Don't do it. I will tell you. Some people said, "Oh, this is going to be fun." Carol has some barbecue to eat at some point. That friend showed up. Is that Dave and Lee?
Dave and Pat.
Dave and Pat. I just wanted to say thank you to them for bringing Carol barbecue.
And Lee barbecue, yeah.
Lee barbecue.
Hi, Lee. Her
So
husband. There you go.
Because we were driving
He's hiding
to St.
somewhere.
Louis today, and I have a very dear friend who I met in the Rose and Crown. She was there. She lives in the Bahamas, and she was at the Rose and Crown with some friends, really having good times, experienced libations around the world, shall we say. And they came to the Rose and Crown, and they were so much fun. And she's absolutely a gorgeous woman, inside and out. And we became friends. And then I got flown to the Bahamas a couple of times to perform, I think for her 40th birthday as well. And then we've just kept in contact all these years. And I went with the Disney cruise with my mom to the Bahamas. And we went, and Jenny was there. She met us there and took us all around the Bahamas that day. It was so much fun. So I Jenny happened to say, hey, are you going to St. Louis? My mom and dad live there. And they sat there and texted me today and said, we're bringing you dinner. We're bringing you barbecue. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's just so sweet.
What a small world.
Okay.
No, that's great. So, Carol, people are asking me now, and I don't know if we even know this. Do we know where you are going to land when all this is done in the Disney World?
Nobody really knows. Disney's working very hard on bringing all the musicians back.
Okay.
But they're going to do things in phases, just like everything in Disney. But there's going to be lots of live entertainment. The Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom, is it, open on July 11th. And then Epcot and the studios open on the 15th. Musicians, they haven't announced who, where, or what yet. They're working it out so the musicians are safe, and that the guests are safe, and that everyone will have the magical experience that we all know Disney's going to do.
We're going to have Carol behind a plexiglass.
A plexiglass box, yes. That's exactly what I'm picturing. Just like StreamYard, plexiglass.
Well, they are communicating with us, but nothing has been established totally for everything, but they are trying really hard to make sure that they have as many live musicians and actors back in a timely fashion so that the guests are safe and that the musicians and actors are safe. And it's going to be fabulous. They're doing some great things.
I cannot wait to see you back in your element, even though technically now this makes me a little teary-eyed, feeling like you are in your element. Carol, were you always musical? Like as a child, were you always doing keyboard?
Yeah, my mother was a musician. She was a trumpet player, and her brothers and sisters were all musicians and dancers and artists. And when I was a young girl, a baby, they had piano in the house. My mother and her sisters all had a piano in each house. And at age 2, I just sat at the piano and started, singing nursery rhymes and playing.
One of those pictures is on carolstein.com.
Oh yeah. That's me as a 2-year-old singing naked on a piano bench.
That's great.
And then my mother taught me to read music. And so by age 4, she said, well, would you like to take lessons from a piano teacher? And I did. I started at age 4, and I've always been playing since.
Have you ever taught, or was that not your thing?
No, I taught dental hygiene.
Really? So before all these...
All my life. I've been a pianist, a bassoonist, and a saxophonist. And I traveled to Europe when I was a teenager on bassoon as well. And I always have performed. But I heard of the challenges of musicians, struggling artists. And I didn't want it. I was a woman of this age. We all want to take care of ourselves. We don't want anybody to have to take care of us. And so I decided I was going to go to med school. And my brother, who was a dentist, he said, oh, don't do that. You need to play your music. So do something like dentistry where you have your weekends free, usually. So I said, okay. So I was going to go to dental school, but at first I went to be a dental hygienist, and I got a master's in dental science. And I taught dental hygiene while playing in jazz clubs at night.
That's great. When did you start with Disney?
1990.
Was that the Comedy Warehouse?
Yes, well, I was living, after university, I had a job offer in Switzerland. So I left the country and I moved to Europe. And for between 15 and 20 years, depending on, I was living in Switzerland and Hong Kong and Japan and Norway, and I just traveled as a pianist. I came home for a visit, and Disney heard me performing somewhere, and they brought me in to play an audition for them, and they said they'd like me to work for them. And I said, I love traveling around the world, but thank you. So they said, well, just come play. And so whenever I was in America, I'd come back every so often. My first day ever on Disney property was at the Grand Floridian lobby.
Ooh.
And my heart lives in the Grand Floridian. Lee and I were married at the Grand Floridian.
Wow.
I love the elegance. I love the romance. I love everything about it. The Steinway Concert Grand in the lobby. So my very first day was at the lobby. Then they trained me at Hoop-de-Doo. And they trained me at Kids. I was a Kids of the Kingdom keyboard player. I was a Kids of the Kingdom. Any show there was a pianist, because I could read music and sight read and make up things. They would just stick me in real quick. And then I went back to Hong Kong. I went back to Europe. And then every time I'd be in America, I would play for Disney. And then in 1997, they asked if I would play at Comedy Warehouse. And I moved home to America to do that.
Now, I have to ask you, because the Comedy Warehouse was so different, everyone was, completely a different show. Did you enjoy, like, between stuff? Did you enjoy the shows? Or did you have enough of it after the first week?
Oh, no. I was there 18 years with Comedy Warehouse. And every show is different. And that's what I love. And that's why I love the Rose and Crown. It depends who's in the pub.
Who's in the pub, yeah.
The artists, the actors, the improv artists are so brilliant. It's a family. And in between shows, in the green room, that was funny.
Yeah, I mean, you, to an extent, you also had to be an improv artist there. Because actually, not even to an extent. I remember they would come up with things and you would just, come up with ditties for things that were original off the top of your head.
Right, that's why they hired me, as I'm an improv artist, a musician. And we created reggae songs, rap songs, and operas, and jazz songs, and musicals, full musicals, where the whole show was like a musical. And we would just create it, and we worked with each other. I listened to them, they listened to me, I'd follow them, they'd follow me. It was a beautiful balancing act. In improv, it's always yes and.
Right.
Yes and. If I start a reggae beat, yes and. I'm in Jamaica now, singing reggae. If I start an opera, oh yes, they were so wonderful. Or if they would say, well, back in my country western days, and then I'd go to you just listen. And it's yes and as long as you listen to them, and they listen to you, it's a beautiful thing.
Right, as long as you plus the suggestion. All right, before the people in here start asking me for song requests, which I don't even know if you take requests, what I want to do is ask you what your favorite thing to play is. And get you to play something that you enjoy that's Disney-ish.
Oh my, that is Disney-esque?
Disney-esque, Disney-ish, yeah. But something you like.
Oh. Gosh, that's a loaded question.
Right, nobody asks you what you like, right?
Wow. It's pretty hard to have something Disney that I don't like. Wow. If I'm playing for just me at home, I'd be playing a jazz ballad or a jazz swing, or it depends on the mood. It depends what I'm doing. That's a hard question. You want me to play something Disney?
Something, whatever you're feeling right now that you think you want to play. It's up to you.
Well, there's a great song called Laughing at Life. Life right now has been a little challenging sometimes for people. And I always like to look at the positive side. So I'm going to start with that. I don't mind those raindrops. Wait until the rain stops. You'll find that sun laughing at life. I know road is lonely if you just only smile through your tears, laughing at life. Live for tomorrow, be happy today. Laugh all your sorrows away. Start now and cheer up. All the sky's gonna clear up. Lose all your blues, laughing at life. Live for tomorrow and be happy today. Laugh all your sorrows away. Start now and cheer up. All the sky's gonna clear up. Lose all your blues, laughing at life. Now I know in life a little bit of rain, but just put a smile, baby, don't complain. Lose all your blues, laughing at life.
Carol, I love you. I've always loved you, but I can't. I realize how much more I miss you. I'm ready to cry from
Oh,
watching you. So just so you know, because I know you can't see the comments, Carol, people are saying how they can't stop smiling. They so needed this tonight. So thank you so much.
oh.
Alan, do you have favorites that Carol does?
Well, I always like when Carol takes a Disney tune and then changes the composer to classical. In fact, that's probably the first thing I ever saw her do at Comedy Warehouse, probably 20 years ago or so, where she either asked for a childhood song or a Disney song, and then the classical composers.
Carol, can you give us an
We can
example of
do
that?
that.
I do remember those, but give us an example.
Do you have a favorite song, Alan, that you want me to do it on?
Well, a fun one to change the melody of would probably be, oh, I don't know, Under the Sea.
Under the Sea?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so maybe we'll. I don't know if I've ever done that classical.
I was going to say, because you're going to start that with some reggae influence, and then you're going to change it to classical, which
Okay.
should be fun.
Alrighty.
I like that, Alan.
This is perfect for Jenny down to the Bahamas, right? The seaweed is always greener in somebody else's lake. You dream about going up there, but that would be a big mistake. Just look at the world around you, right here on the ocean floor. Such wonderful things surround you. What more is you looking for? Everyone at home, ready? Under the sea. Under the sea. Darling, it's better down where it's wetter. Take it from me. Up on the shore, they work all day. Out in the sun, they slave away while we devote and full time to floating under the sea.
Yay!
Carol, you've never done that before?
No, I actually never requested that particular song for a classical version. How fun!
Alan, that really lent itself really well. I still have no
Alan
idea.
Menken, well, Alan Menken is a genius. I mean, the Sherman Brothers, genius. Alan Menken, genius. I mean, their musical melodies and words, and with Howard Ashman, oh my gosh, it lends itself to it. It's so musical.
That was absolutely incredible. All right. If I have Carol for about 10 minutes before I'm going to allow her to go eat her barbecue. So if anybody in the chat room here has a request, we can try it. Try to keep it Disney. I have my own request, but I don't even know if she wants to do that on the piano.
Well,
I want to hear when
that sound so.
I want to hear you do When You Wish Upon a Star, but it might be too slow.
Slow. I love that. Well, first of all, that is the quintessential Disney, magical, most amazing music. I'd be honored.
I would love to hear that. I might cry, so I'm going to put you on just in case.
I was going to say solo her up.
Yeah. Carol, thank you. That's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Wow.
Thank you so much.
Carol, if we have time for one last one, I'm looking at the suggestions that are here, and I think the one that we could all use is A Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow.
Oh, that's great.
Do you like that? And then I will let you go eat your barbecue, and thank you so much for showing up. I don't know if you don't know your talent yourself. I think you know you're talented, but I don't know if you know how talented you are.
Before I play this, thank you so much for having me on here. I see you all the time. I love when I see you on the TV stations and you bring all this wonderful, wonderful, magical information so the guests can know what's going on at Disney. We appreciate you so much.
Thank you so much.
You and Ellen both with the Mouse Planet. You bring so much joy because you're informing us all of what's going on, and we really appreciate you.
And
Thanks
trying to
for
do
having
it
me on your show.
and trying to do it the right way instead of clickbait stuff. So thank you for noticing that.
But we know that we're all going through a challenging year, and that's the beauty of Disney is the positive energy that it brings. And every song that the Sherman Brothers wrote, like "There's a Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow," there will be, and we know this. We're all going to be at Disney, hugging each other eventually soon.
I truly do believe that.
It will happen. Okay, maybe we can all sing it together. Ready? There's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow, shining at the end of every day. There's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow. Tomorrow's just a dream away. Man has a dream, that's the start. He follows his dream, mind and heart, and when it becomes a reality, it's a dream come true for you and me. So there's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow, shining at the end of every day. There's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow. It's just a dream away.
Carol, I thank you so, so much. I am going to let you go to enjoy your company, to have your barbecue, to continue your RVing adventures. And I do have to tell the people out there, you love this right now, and she is in an RV with a very weird audio setup. When she is back in her element and we can hear her, could you imagine how this sounds?
I have to tell you one more thing. My birthday is on June 11th, in like 2 days. And we're going to Marceline, Missouri, where Walt Disney was born for my birthday.
Oh, nice.
Are you going to see the original Main Street?
Yes.
Wow. Please take pictures.
That's my birthday. I will. Me? Pictures? You know I will. So
I will show your
my birthday. We're going to Marceline, Missouri.
That's awesome. Your Facebook is facebook.com/Carol Stein, I think.
Yeah.
I'll find out and I'll put the link up no matter what it is.
Okay.
And if we don't see you in Disney maybe by next month, when you're back home, we might do this again so I have your home set up. But either way, we're all going to see you soon, and much love to you. Thank your husband for letting...
Can you say hello to my husband first? Wait.
Lee, where are you, Lee? Come here.
He's been so patiently waiting.
Lee, thank you.
Hi, Lee.
That's Lee. He's the RV master.
All right. Thank you so much for doing this whole setup for us and doing. She's on a cell service right now, believe it or not. So this was great. Thank you so much. This gave me this filled up my tank. Thank you. Mwah.
Thank you.
Love
Bye.
her.
Goodbye.
Is she Alan the best?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and as I probably told you, and I know Carol knows the story, and you can probably take her off the bottom now.
Oh, how do I take her off? I don't
Turn off the banner, Panda. Turn off the banner.
Oh, the banner. I thought you meant to get rid of her.
No, she's gone. She's eaten.
Okay.
But
keep
Carol was
talking.
my...
I'm gonna message somebody that knows about travel that might come on and help us.
Sure. Carol was my... Go ahead. What?
No, go ahead. Good. I'm listening to you.
I was going to say, Carol was my connection to coming to Central Florida. When I decided it was time to leave Chicago, I had messaged Carol and said, hey, connect me with a realtor. What neighborhoods should I look at? Carol was responsible to introducing me to all of the friends I've met in Central Florida outside of the press. All the ones I've met through the press, I've met because Disney invites us all to the events and whatnot. And I mean, for those who don't know, Mouse Planet's been around forever. I was reading Mouse Planet at my desk in Chicago decades ago. So the irony for me is that I'm writing for it now. But Carol was my main connection here, and she introduced me to everybody. And, I certainly returned the favor. I introduced Panda to Carol, who had seen Carol but hadn't actually met Carol. So
exactly.
I made sure that,
Well, that's what you've introduced me to, like everybody from the Adventurers Club that I know that I've never really seen in person. So I do a little bit of my own fanboying when I see these people. I'm like, oh, I know you.
Well, and it's through various parties that Carol's invited to me at her house, where I've gotten to meet a lot of the Comedy Warehouse players who are also Adventurers Club players, where I've gotten to see them in person rather than in character, which is it's fun to see which people are close to their characters and which ones are not close to their characters. And since that's their private business, I'm not going to share that here.
Okay, so are you going to hang around while we talk to Becky?
I'll hang. Sure, why not?
You are more than welcome.
I could also just do that, right?
No, stay here. Hang. I'm sure you might have even questions for her that I won't. And let me bring her in here, ladies and gentlemen. Becky Mankin from Mouse Fan Travel, MEI Travel.
Hey,
hi,
guys.
Becky.
How are you doing?
Oh wow, you have a good mic, Becky.
Oh, thank you so
You
much.
have a really good mic.
Most people that come on my show don't have such a wonderful mic.
Well, I'm kind of forced.
I know. So yeah, guys, I don't mean to take this from a musical thing to a travel thing, but I knew I only had Carol for a half hour, and I honestly didn't know if her Wi-Fi. She was on T-Mobile, Becky. That whole thing. So I didn't know if she was going to even last. And I have been wanting to get Becky for the last couple of weeks to navigate the changing information that is Disney travel. Is there a light at the end of the tunnel, Becky?
Oh, sweetie, that's the best question I've heard so far. I will say how happy and thrilled I was to get an opening date. Because we have been going for so long along this process of what's going to happen. When is it going to happen? Are we ever going to open? Is it going to be 2025 before we get to go back to the parks? And then to actually hear the July 11th date was like hearing angels singing. Okay. And in all honesty, when I was watching some of the live streams of the opening for Disney Springs, I wasn't ready for how emotional I got watching people return to at least that little sliver of magic that we know and love. And for you being right there, I'm sure that had a little cramp in your style not being able to go to Disney Springs, but being as far away, I'm in Seattle, so it's 2,500 miles for me, and seeing a little bit of that kind of lifted my spirits and gave a little bit of light at the end of that tunnel. Clearly there's a long way to go because they're going very slowly, very meticulously, with limited capacity. So there is hope. There is sunshine on the horizon. But I think that we have a lot of ways to go with a lot of patience, and having to maneuver what this new theme park experience is going to look like, because it certainly isn't going to be exactly the same.
Do you know if they are they almost motivating some people to cancel in your mind? Do you have that feeling that they're almost trying to get some people to cancel?
I don't think that they're trying to get people to cancel. I do believe that they're probably doing as good of a job as they can to set the appropriate level of expectation, right? Because they want to have there's a certain number of people that you can have in the theme parks. Clearly, we don't know what that official number is. We've been hearing things thrown around like 25%, 30% in that arena. So clearly they don't want to bring a whole bunch of people in on a vacation for them not to be able to get a park reservation. So it makes sense how they're doing it right now, so they can truly have as much control as they can, with the most positive guest experience that they can have given the situation that we're in. I really think that I don't think that they're trying to say, hey, don't come, but I think they're just trying to manage everything, the numbers and the expectations.
If you think of how different it is that we're staying at a resort, we're not guaranteed to get into the park. That's a really different, we're not used to that.
Oh, definitely not used
New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve, Christmas. Yeah. Those were the standouts in the past.
4th of July, any of those times where you're, especially being an annual pass holder, we feel a bit entitled because dang it, we've invested all this money in this brand and in this little ticket, and to be told we can't go in is definitely difficult. It's a difficult pill to swallow. However, like everybody said, all the cliches, there is no roadmap for this. There is no instruction book on how you handle something that is this impactful, not only on theme parks, but on every industry nationwide. And coming from the travel industry, this is definitely one of the places that I wish I didn't work right now, just because it has been an extreme challenge. But then again, this shows the passion, dedication that all of us have for this brand, because we are so touched by it, and we do get angry when things don't go the way we should, because we have high expectations of this awesome brand. But we have to have, again, a little bit of patience and empathy for what's going on their side.
Beci, are you finding third-party providers that help put together the totality of somebody's long-distance trip to Walt Disney World being as flexible in their new policies in terms of refunds and in terms of scheduling as Disney has been, in terms of what it's been throwing out there, saying, okay, we're going to refund all this, we're going to waive all change fees, things like that?
You know, a lot of it has been on a case-by-case basis with different suppliers. So there are some, like tour operators, who have a more difficult time just saying, oh yeah, here, have your refund, because they have contracts with hotels and buses and different providers that they're being legally held up to as well. So it would completely bankrupt a tour company to be able to just say, yeah, here, have all your money back, and then having to meet the expectations of those contracts. Disney's been doing a great job. Universal has done a great job. Several of the cruise lines have been fantastic about their policies in providing refunds, or providing 125% future cruise credit, or 150% in some cases, which was amazing. Now, clearly, if you're one of those people who booked a cruise and you're waiting for a deposit or for a refund to come back to you, it's taking time, because clearly their systems were not set up to provide this much volume in terms of refunds. So a lot of it's being done manually, and a lot of people don't realize that. And systems were set up to take in money, not give money out. So it really depends on what company has been through what they were set up to do, and if they were prepared for this avalanche that no one saw coming.
Beci, if I would have asked you a year ago, is it possible they'd close up Disney World, what would you have said to me?
Wow. Wow. Well, all right. I kind of have gone back a few times with people who've asked me similar questions. And the closest thing that I've ever been through like this was 9/11. And that's obviously, the theme park closed. The airlines didn't fly for a few days. Did
the parks close stopped for a few days?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. One day.
At least one.
I was out in California on 9/11 on business, and Disneyland reopened on September 12th, and that was my first visit to Disney California Adventure, September 12th, 2001, since I couldn't get back to Chicago, and I couldn't even drive up to LA to go to my firm's LA office. My firm's LA office had closed, so I went to California Adventure.
Yeah, and I was a travel agent on Long Island, and we could see the smoke like 30 miles away. And I remember thinking, oh, I don't know what's going on. But they closed for a day, which that's not a lot. I mean, this is so different.
That's the point.
I was going to say the longest Disney World has ever closed before was, I think it was Irma. I think it closed 2 days for Irma a couple of years ago, and that was the longest it had ever closed.
So to answer your question, no. If you would have told me a year ago, we're going to sit here for 3 months and wonder when the parks are going to reopen, I would have said, you are nuts, because we've never faced anything like this before. And the difference with the airlines, I mean, clearly with 9/11, the airlines did stop for a significant amount of time, but you still had people driving to their vacation destinations. And of course, Disney was the perfect place for people to return to, because everyone wanted to feel together and wanted to be, with their family in a safe environment, in a safe place. And I think we're going to have that again, which is probably one of the reasons why Disney wants to manage that so closely. The last thing they want is for a whole bunch of people to show up, them to be at 75% capacity, and then 3,000 people get sick. We don't want to have to do this again.
So July 11th, we don't have the system. The system is not up yet to make the reservation to get into the park.
No, we don't right now. And I will tell you, that's the thing that shocked me the most, not just that the things were closed, which when Disney literally told me, I'm sorry, we're going to stop all taking any reservations at all. You're not going to be able to take reservations, and we can't tell you when it's going to come back up. Because for us right now, we're clearly trying to make it from here to there, wherever there ends up being. And it's going to depend on our survival is going to depend on being able to book future. So making sure we have reservations on the books for 2021. But for Disney to say, it's stopped, you can't do anything, have a great day, that was a difficult piece of information to hear. But right now, it's all that lockdown, and it's the only way they could have done it, to be in all honesty, because even I feel and my heart bleeds for people who spent so much time getting their dining reservations and getting the experience reservations that were all wiped clean. However, there's no way that they could have figured out how to make sure that people who had those reservations could also get a park reservation. And I just don't see that they could have done it any other way. There's no ETA right now of when it's going to come back up. So it needs to be soon, though, because July 11th is right around the corner. So,
Can you answer that question, Becky, at all? Does that make any sense?
I have a deadline for final payment coming up next month for DCL. Do you think Disney would give me an extension on making final payment? Hey, Stan, by the way, I want to say that they have been with some dates. I am not exactly sure what they're planning to do past this week. So hang on with me on that one, because I'm hoping to hear something this week about final payments and if there's going to be an extension. We were really hoping that they would do that as they're doing for Disney World, because right now you can make your final payment up to 7 days before you arrive, which is a lot different because it's usually 45 days. So stand by on that, and I'll get you an answer to that question.
And
stand by.
Yeah,
it seems like they've been sneaking new information into their what you need to know in advance, or what know before you go pages on the site almost daily.
Yeah,
I was on the site last night, and there was a whole bunch of new detail that I hadn't seen in a big announcement form, but in pretty precise detail about, like, parking, that there was going to be parking, that parking fees were still going to apply, but there'd be no valet parking except for folks with exactly.
Yeah, and that know before you go section is like their Bible right now. And I think that it's not in their best interest to go out with every single detail and splash it out as an announcement. I think if I put on my Disney hat, it's probably the best way to do it, just to tell people, because the situation is so fluid right now, that the changes are happening so quickly, that that's probably the best way to keep up with it. So when I get into the office every morning, that's the first place I go to see if there's been any new changes.
Well, listen, I think a lot of travel agencies may not survive this. Let's be honest. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad your agents have taken this all. Everything we've heard from you guys has been as positive as you could be. I don't know how you're still smiling sometimes.
It has not been the easiest time. I think that I'm always going to find a benefit or a positive piece in here. And for me, it's been that I think we're showing our value in huge, epic ways. I think that a lot of people are thinking, well, if I do it, I can do it on my own. I can just go book with Disney Direct or Cruise Line Direct. And certainly you can. I mean, we're all pretty able to go to a website and click a few clicks and make a booking. However, I think I've mentioned to you a few times before, and when I was on your show last, I've always kind of looked at us like flight attendants in a lot of ways, that when we're there to help you and to assist you on a normal day and give you that Diet Coke, and here, have a bag of peanuts or whatever we can do to help you for your flight. But our true purpose is when there's an emergency, when there's something like this that happens. We've been on hold for hours to help people get their cancellation or do their FCC, or to take care of getting somebody reassigned. I mean, when this last go around occurred and they made this announcement that if you're coming to property from June 22nd to July 4th, you have until Friday to tell them if you're going to confirm the reservation, to cancel it, or to modify it. And that came out on a Saturday. So my entire team was scrambling as fast as they could to take care of people as quickly as they could, because if you're going to confirm and come in, you had to make sure that you got it in as quick as possible, because it was based on availability and on those the villa resorts in Fort Wilderness. So for us to kind of jump in front of you so that you don't have to have that 5-hour wait time, so that just as you hear the person say, how can I help you, the line goes dead. So I think that's been a positive of this, is that we're really kind of showing our clients and potential clients what value we can bring to their trip. And again, at no additional cost. We do not charge fees at our agency. There are some agencies out there that do. We do not. We are paid by the supplier when you travel. So you don't really lose out by using a travel professional to help you. You just kind of have an advocate in your corner to help you when things kind of go awry. There's been a couple of situations where a lot of people were unfortunately given incorrect information when they called in, because that change was so quick. A lot of people were unfortunately told that they would have to pay for the upgrade from their value resort to one of the villa resorts during that time period. And that actually wasn't true. And for us, we know how to handle that. We know who to go to. We know how to say that person may not have actually been reading it right, or maybe they weren't informed correctly. So some people who didn't have that advocacy canceled their trip, and there's no way to get that back.
Wow. So if anybody says, give me an example of why we should use a travel agency, we now have something let's hope that that's all that we have to talk about in a year from now.
Yeah, I have a few of those. There's a ton of ways that we found. And it's not because anybody did anything malicious. It's just that the suppliers
not being informed. Yeah.
Yeah. But the suppliers are going so fast trying to fix this problem and trying to plug up the holes in the dam that sometimes some of the policies may be misread easily, or maybe they've put out a policy and didn't realize that there might be a problem that occurs because of that policy. And so, we have our handle on all of those situations, and we go and fight for those situations. And sometimes we get it, and actually most of the times we get it.
Well, I hope I want to give you a rest. I know you probably talk about this all day.
Well, I'm always happy, and I always tell people I am always open. If you have questions, if you booked elsewhere but you're still kind of wondering, I want to help you, because there's not a lot of great resources out there to help give you information. There's a lot of misinformation that's out there. I mean, it is the internet, and sometimes it's a big game of telephone where something is released, and then by the time it's gone through 4 or 5 different hands, the information changes.
Some of the comments are giving dates on when Disneyland is supposed to open, and they're asking if it's correct. I'm assuming we did not hear that official, correct?
Now, Disneyland is an interesting animal because they have been a lot more, the government's been a lot more particular about how they're going to open things. And I know that the area government is very cautious about Disneyland. It certainly doesn't have the space that Disney World has. So they have not come out with anything official. I know a lot of people are kind of really laser focused on the anniversary of July 17th. And that's because they started saying, we'll take hotel reservations by July 16th. I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I'm not saying it's going to happen, because Disney World also did the same thing when they said June 1st. And here we are looking into June 22nd and now July 11th before we get a park opening. So I would say stand by on that. I can't say yes. I can't confirm nor deny, because they have not given us any information or any clues.
Stan Solo is talking about a time that you went to bat for him and came through. Stan, if you want to come on and tell us the story, it sounds like a good one. You let me know, and I'll send you the link. Just let me know if you're set up and want to talk about. Is it a good story, Becky? Do you remember what it is that he's talking about?
We do this on a daily basis for
Right.
people. So
That's what
I'm sure the moment he starts talking, I'll go, oh, yeah, I remember that. Because obviously we have about 100 agents nationwide. And every single one of them, that's their purpose right now. That's their goal. That's their passion, is to make it right for their clients and do the best thing they can to create whatever magic we can with whatever pixie dust we have left right now. Which
the wand is out.
No, the wand has definitely been overused on so many levels recently. And again, it's not just Disney. We're dealing with every single supplier that we do major business with, which includes like Royal Caribbean and Celebrity and all of the cruise lines and Adventures by Disney. And it's a lot that we've held up for. And many of us have had those times that we've had to get on Zoom calls and do the pep talk. And it's mainly, not only, clearly we're losing money from the business, but that's not what they're most concerned about. I'm hearing stories from them about how horrific they feel for the family that's not going to get to go. And they really feel every single one of those losses. And
that's you got it right. You feel each one, and then you got to go make another phone call, and it's fresh again, and you got a whole different ball game. That's a mental health hard thing to.
You got to be strong to do this job. And it's been funny because there's been a lot of people going, hey, how do I get to be a travel agent? I'm like, I'm happy to tell you all the spectrum of the great, the good, the bad, and the ugly of this industry. But what happened to so many of them this time is that they had to go through the initial, oh my gosh, the parks are closed. I have to cancel your vacation. We got to move it. And then it closed for longer, and they had to move the second reservation, and then it closed for longer, and they had to move the third reservation. So it's almost like, just getting beat
disappointment
down.
on top of disappointment on top of disappointment. I know.
Yeah.
Well, and today we got the heartbreaking news that Give Kids the World Village is going to shut down for the long term.
That did me in.
Yeah. I haven't cried yet in all of this. For the exception of the Disney Springs thing, but that did it.
Well, usually with Give Kids the World, you think, okay, I can throw money at them and I feel a little better.
Yeah.
This time you can't. It doesn't even. It's not. I mean, yes, they need money, but the money doesn't help.
No, these will be wishes unfulfilled, and
yes.
there's. I mean, I had Pam on one of my shows a few weeks ago, and the issue already had become, how do you serve critically ill children and their families in the face of a pandemic? And now until we're fairly clear of the health emergency piece of it, you probably can't, which is, I guess, the decision that the Make-A-Wish Foundation decided, which gave rise to the Give Kids the World decision today.
Yeah, I think that has to be a very complex issue. Clearly, sadly, a lot of those families don't have the gift of time. And so this is a definite heartbreak. However, with the unknowns of how contagious this really is, or how it's really spreading, and all of those immunocompromised children, I just don't, again, see how they could have made any other choice. But it's so heartbreaking.
They actually mentioned until there's a vaccine.
Right, until insubstantial use. And the piece of it that Pam had discussed when she was on our show a few weeks ago was that, all right, so if temperature screening is going to be the norm, some of their clientele has a temperature having nothing to do with COVID-19. And so how do you deal with that at a screening checkpoint? How do you deal with that for the family? And they were already going above and beyond to handle the circumstances for folks with fatal and near fatal situations, and now this was making it that much more complicated to address.
Absolutely heartbreaking, and there's no solution except for time. That
right. I mean, that's right. The solution is science and a lot of hope
and time. So, did we hear vaccine is hopefully December, January?
Who knows? I saw a news story that it could be at the end of the year, but then again, who knows?
Well, Becky, thank you so much. Is there anything, guys? Do you have a question that I should? I know a lot of you have asked things. They may not be. I don't want to give Becky these funny things right now, but some of them.
No,
are funny.
you can give me anything you want. I'm pretty much up for any question.
Brandon said Becky and John because he knows, and I'm sure he might even know you too. He goes, "What will your first ride be when the Magic Kingdom reopens, and why will it be the Haunted Mansion?" Because that would be the first ride I want to go on. Becky, what would your first thing to run to be?
Oh my gosh. Well, in Disney World, it would probably be the TTA.
Okay.
Just because that's my go-to. I need to go and just relax and see as much of the Magic Kingdom as I possibly can. That would probably be the first. But my craving is to just walk in the gates, hear the music, grab a coffee, sit on a bench, and just absorb the surrounding.
And realize how much you just took it for granted.
Yeah.
Alan, do you have a favorite that you'd?
Well, I think that I what Becky said about the TTA, it's always been my go-to, and nothing helps promote social distancing better than people move around.
I want my own car.
I was already thinking, I'm like, oh gosh, how are they going to deal with the queue for that, right? Because the queue for that was always so bunched up, and the queue for it always moved super quick, but it was all bunchy, and I don't know, and I mean and John, you and I've talked before. I have not gone over to Disney Springs since it reopened. I had a health issue this past week that's given me additional pause from going to parks and so forth, because I was on some medication that makes me more susceptible to illness. And fortunately, I've gone through that treatment and I'm on the road to being better, but don't know how long that needs to cycle through the system. And, so those are all my own concerns on top of, I'm one who definitely would wear a mask, whether it's optional or not. And wearing a mask here in Central Florida, it's a challenge. I mean, it's a challenge to wear a dark hat on a hot day in Florida. So to cover my face, or even John's black T-shirt, I learned long ago I'm not wearing a black T-shirt in the park in the summer. So I mean, those are all the challenges that are up ahead. But I certainly, like everyone else, miss the parks and look for the right opportunities to go back and visit.
Alan,
as a local, we have that privilege too, right? Where we talk about how expensive and entitled annual pass holders feel. I also have joked since I moved to Central Florida that since in the past I could go to the parks anytime I wanted to, my pass was under $2 a day, whether I went or not. And that's a hell of a bargain for the entertainment you get.
It really is.
Yeah, that's so true.
The mask with the vents, by the way, if you can get them, and you may not be able to now except for like eBay, they do help in a hot theme park, because I was breathing a lot. I'm a big guy, I'm running around, and it wasn't the mask. The mask didn't give me a problem, but I think it's the air is not coming back at me. My own breath is not coming back. It's the vent is going back.
Well, as you know, I'm a transplanted Chicagoan, and I didn't like wearing a scarf until it got down to about 20 below or so. So, and even then I only wore it begrudgingly because you had to. So it's going to be a sensitivity issue, and it's going to be an adjustment, certainly.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I'm having a hard time wrapping my brain around, I don't have kids, but I can't imagine keeping a mask on a 2 or 3 year old. That one kind of blows my mind, and maybe it's not. And that's what I keep talking to clients about. Maybe this isn't the best time for you to go. If a mask is uncomfortable, or if that's going to really have an impact on your experience, next year may be a better time. And so you need to it's a personal decision, because some people are very sensitive to wearing a mask or not wearing a mask. And it tends to have some polarizing lines right now about what it says about you and your character. So do you want to spend all that money to go and have an experience that doesn't include fireworks and doesn't include parades and doesn't include the things that we love about being surrounded by that magic?
No, but you say that, John, but it does go back to something
I know.
Becky and you both said. It's all right now about expectation setting. Yeah. And the more that Disney and the other providers in the industry set those expectations for their customers, the less 100%. They'll hear the yelling and the screaming. from
100%.
disappointed people. I mean, the people are going to be disappointed because, yes, unfortunately, the world has changed.
Yeah.
But the good news is that a meteor didn't take out Walt Disney World, right? I mean, it's still there.
The infrastructure is there.
This is not a war. This is a disease situation now coupled with civil unrest on top of it, which makes it that much more difficult to deal with. But I mean, the bottom line is the parks are still there, and we need some patience. And it's patience that's going to be tough because you're talking about people having dream vacations,
Right.
and that's a really, really tough thing to weigh. A little bit of patience, and maybe science will come through, or I want it now, and to heck with everybody else. And
And it's such a difficult thing to manage, for sure. And I don't envy the people who have been making these decisions on trying to figure out how to do this and make everybody happy and still have a magical
Becky,
experience.
could you imagine the board meeting where they said we're going to cancel everything and start fresh?
Wow.
That I really wish I would have seen somebody go, okay, that's what we have to do, and the heads that must have been like, are you crazy?
Well, as I'm sure you've seen, Becky, and I was extensively traveling for business during the years that I was a practicing attorney. The travel industry moved more and more and more into lock it in advance, no refunds. We might change your schedule, but you can't. And when this hit, and the question I asked you before, the industry had a pivot.
Yeah.
The big players really pivoted. Disney pivoted, the airlines pivoted, but it leaves it to everybody else with this model that was built on, all right, everybody got to prepay, and then there's these risks. And unfortunately, and today I saw Fauci gave an interview where he said, this was his worst nightmare, but unfortunately his worst nightmare has come to pass.
Yeah, and that's so, I can barely wrap my brain around it, and I've been living it for 3 months. And the complexity that comes in with all of this is mind-blowing. And being a fly on the wall of that Zoom call of them trying to make these decisions would have been a masterclass in business, which I would have loved to attend, but not been a participant, in my opinion.
And everybody was guessing, right? I mean, we sort of knew in the theme park fandom, and I'm sure you knew in the travel industry, that Disney would be an early actor in the name of safety, or what it perceived to be safety, and that when it came to reopening, Disney would not be the first actor. That Disney in the name of safety was going to be a later mover, and that's pretty much how this has panned out.
Yeah, and this is why, is because Disney's held as the bar. If Disney says it's safe, then by gosh, it's safe. That's that reputation that follows this brand. So that's why they can't screw this up, because if the travel industry says, okay, hey, Disney says that they're open and they're ready to take people into their hotels, we should be ready too, because that's when people are going to move. So if it falls down on itself, then we're going to have a real problem.
And the analogy we seem to have is 9/11, and I've lately heard a lot of people romanticizing how quickly we as a people recovered after 9/11, but I have a very different recollection of that, and I'm sure in the travel industry you did. I was stuck out of town on business, as I said, on 9/11, and then I had to travel extensively the rest of that year on business, and had to continue doing so into 2002, and nobody was traveling. And it was a good several years that people weren't traveling, and I decided in that time period to start taking my annual vacations down here at Disney World, because I was a DVC member, and I could get that last minute. It wasn't last minute that year, but it was later than you could in subsequent years, get that late DVC reservation to stay on property for New Year's Eve.
Right.
And it was some years before suddenly the chaos started picking back up in the resorts. I mean, there was that time when the parks went, for example, from Fantasmic being every night at the studios to when Fantasmic was 1 or 2 nights a week for a while, because attendance was so depressed, they were shifting around which park was doing which spectacular on which night. And then by the mid-2000s or so, that's when things started to pick back up.
Yeah. I had a September 23rd reservation at the Polynesian that I went to, and it seemed pretty busy, and everything seemed pretty normal to me. And that was only 2 weeks after September 11th. I do remember the castle did a firework, and I remember getting scared and telling them, hey, I'm from New York, don't do that. But September 23rd, I remember being petrified on the plane. But I went. So I don't know if it was that big. Do you remember, Becky? Was that a big?
Oh yeah.
Things did seem to recover pretty quick from what I remember.
Well, in comparison, clearly, this one is definitely a little bit out of bounds. But for me, I had a whole different take on this. I actually bought my first travel agency on September 19th of 2001. Because I had this love for Disney, and I saw that people still want to travel. We need to escape this everyday scenario that, for me, I haven't been out of this house for the exception of like twice since March. I miss the inside.
Which is very different for her than usual.
Yes, I'm usually on the road 30 weeks out of the year, and to actually be home, I miss the inside of an airport. And I would have told you that would have been crazy if I would ever say that for my entire lifetime. So I had a lot of anxiety.
I do believe there's going to be pent up demand when this is done.
The moment that people feel safe, that's the piece. The moment they feel safe, we are going to go right back up to the levels that we had been before. And in the travel industry as a whole, the end of 2019 into January of 2020 were some of the highest booking levels and travel capacity levels in history. So to all of a sudden be on top of the world, we had more business than we knew what to do with. I was scrambling to hire agents. It was the best problem to possibly have, just to have it, crash and burn in the matter of a few days was.
And my personal plan for 2020 was extensive travel. I renewed my passport, which wasn't due to expire until this summer. I renewed it early to make sure it was available. I signed up for TSA PreCheck and global entry, and had started looking at making some international travel plans, because I'd put off international travel for a few years as I got settled here in Central Florida. And, so right now, as John knows, I got very lucky that I decided in September to take a last minute trip to Alani. And I went to Alani, I don't know, about 3 weeks. I booked it about 3 weeks, 4 weeks out, and just went on the spur of a moment because I knew we had a hole in our schedule. And I had been going at a different time of year in the last couple of years, and am so thankful that I made that last minute decision now, because at least I got one last long distance trip in before we got shut down hard.
Yeah, my last one was, we had a big group cruise on board the Disney Wonder out of New Orleans. It was the very first New Orleans round trip cruise, and we had 100 and some odd of us that were just having a great time on a 7-day cruise, and it was starting to just kind of make a little noise that there was a problem. And when I was in Walt Disney World around the same period, I was there for some meetings and started hearing that this was going to be an issue, and then finding out that the first cases were in my backyard. I'm literally 20 miles away from where the first life care center was impacted. So I'm sitting in Orlando going, should I go back to Washington? Should I rent an apartment here for a month just to?
And she usually would have looked for any excuse to stay in Orlando. So
yeah, normally. And then I was thinking, it's probably a good thing that I get back to my husband and be home and manage this crisis for my agency and for my company from a place that I could actually work a little at better. So, but it was weird landing at the airport in Seattle on the time when all of a sudden everything was starting to lock down. Was one of the most eerie, strange experiences ever.
Thinking back on the Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway media event, which took place just a week, 10 days or so before the shutdown, it had a little of that creep factor.
Was that little ominous? Yeah.
It was. We all knew something was up. We were not shaking hands. The buffets weren't buffets. We were being served. Everything was a little bit different, and now it's very different.
Yeah. But do you remember they said life is going to change for Americans in a very serious way? We were like, yeah, okay. Oh boy, did it. Yeah. Alan, when did we go to that play We went to
That was
some
the same time.
Shakespeare.
Yeah, we went
around there.
we went to the Three Musketeers at Orlando Shakes. It was in that same week. It was within a week of it was in the week between Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway and the closing. So
It's amazing
sometime between the 4th and the 12th. Yeah.
How quickly it all changed. Well, I'm looking forward to July. The minute that system comes out, I am going to make a reservation. Hopefully, could you imagine not getting it? That'd be sad.
See, there's the interesting part. I'm waiting for that next shoe to drop about how this whole thing is going to roll out, how it's going to work. I know that certain people are going to have priority over other people. Do we know what that is? We have no clue. That it's going to work through the app, but yet there could be something available. Who knows how this is going to impact us all. And if you have a pass, if you have a ticket, if you have a hotel reservation, that's going to maybe put you at the head of the line. It's all a guessing game right now.
Yeah, I really would like to have a travel agent for my annual pass right now.
But I'm always here for you.
Yeah, Becky, things are changing so quickly.
Yeah.
Next Tuesday, the Tuesday after when stuff comes out, if you please, would you come back and we'll all talk again, please?
Oh, absolutely. I love having these conversations because first of all, it gives me a chance to vent, talk to somebody that's not my husband for another thing, which is kind of fun. And kind of just helps me wrap my brain around the possibilities and the possible holes too, because like I said, they're doing their best to try to make this the most fair scenario for everybody, but there's always chance for something to go
they'll
wrong.
Never make everyone happy, never, but they can try. And
no,
Alan,
even a complete cure tomorrow won't satisfy everyone. We know that, right? I mean, that's the world in which we live.
Becky, I do have one last question for you.
Yeah.
You got a new kitten about when this was all coming together.
Yeah.
That has to be a good thing, and he or she, I forget if it's he or she, has to be he is thrilled that you're home. No.
Well, he's getting spoiled because my husband is home as well. He's working from home. He is a executive producer for the gaming industry, so they just launched a brand new game, which a whole bunch.
Oh,
of
what is
people,
that merge game? What is it?
Evermerge.
Evermerge,
and I'm addicted to the game too. So it's a lot of fun. But
it's in the App Store. You can get Evermerge. It's actually it's very good for Disney people because it's fantasy. Fairy tales and merging, which I never played a merge game before until that game. I didn't know what it was, and you put things together to make other things, to make other things, to make other things, and they constantly got you going doing something. So it's fun.
Yeah. So we've been working on that, but the kitten's name is Boma, and his brother is Jico. So that works out beautifully. They're getting a little spoiled because not only are they getting breakfast and dinner, they're now getting breakfast, lunch, and dinner because they demand it, and therefore the human servants will provide. But it's been nice to be home. I will say that. And you've heard me say several times, whining and complaining that I had to be on the road for as much as I did, that I didn't get to see my husband. This is not what I meant.
Did you ever hear of the monkey's paw, where you get your wish, but it comes with like so many other things? Like this is like, I wish I could spend more time home. You get the wish, but it has to come with all these other caveats that you're not,
Yeah, that's me right now.
Right. Thank you guys all for coming. I'm sorry we started on a high. We're singing Great Big Beautiful tomorrow. Then we're talking about Give Kids the World. So I'm sorry.
This is easy, Panda. This is so easy because the great news is that we're one step closer. We're Baby Yoda steps closer to being back to normal. So the parks are opening, and it's just around the corner. The cruise line is going to sail again. We just don't know when. We're heading in the right direction to be back to whatever that new normal is going to be, but we're going to be back in the magic soon.
So we still can't book Disney Cruise Line yet, or we can?
Oh, we can. We can book Disney Cruise. What we can't book right now is Disney World or Disneyland. That's a reservation system that's separate, that works together but separate from Disney Cruise.
When is Disney Cruise? When are we allowed to book starting when?
We can book any time for Disney Cruise. So, you mean
when do they start up again? Yeah.
Right. Well, that's another story. They haven't exactly said when they're actually going to sail yet. They've just been canceling along the way. So, just a day or so ago, today's Tuesday. That's the hard part, is remembering what day of the week it is anymore. They just canceled all of the European sailings, which is completely understandable. The Right now, the CDC has them on a no stop till July 24th. So technically, after July 24th, people should be able to sail again. But the CDC has a whole list of requirements. And much like when Disney World had to present their plan, the cruise lines are working together to present a plan to the CDC to get the sign off. Yes, you can sail again from the US ports. So that's the step we're waiting for. And assuming that the cruise lines are ready and they say, yes, we're comfortable with our health and safety of our guests and our passengers, they could, and most of them are shooting for like August 1st and beyond to sail. But it's going to depend on each cruise line on how they feel. And of course, if their plan is has a sign off. But one thing I want to say about cruising, if you don't mind, that I know a lot of people are kind of scared about cruising again, because obviously cruise ships were at the forefront when this first happened with the ship in Japan. However, from what I'm hearing, what I'm seeing, and all of the steps that are being taken, a cruise ship might be one of the safest places to go and to experience a vacation during this time with the right cruise line, because you have controlled points of entry, controlled exits, controlled during the entire time. As you're walking up a stairwell and you're touching it as you're walking up, there's going to be somebody that's going to wipe it down right behind you when you walk the other direction.
You even have containment facilities if needed.
Exactly.
Stay in your room.
So it's a personal comfort level, obviously. But the things that I'm hearing and seeing them start to put in place, the measures they're going to go to, far outdo anything that I've seen from any other supplier. Just because pretty much they have to make sure that they ensure the safety and health. And because you are contained on board, you're going to know if there's an outbreak. Unlike at Disney World or in some of the other locations, or even going to your shopping mall or to your grocery store, it's not contained. So you don't really know that that's exactly where you got it or where it was spread. Unlike the cruise ship, it's going to be a little bit more contained.
Yeah, I don't know if aisle 3 at Publix, who was with me. I don't know.
Yeah, and everyone's going to have to wear masks. It's like, walking in Disney World or going to Universal Studios right now. There are rules, and it's private property. And if you prefer not to live up to those rules that they have set for their liability's sake and for their safety of their guests and their cast, then it's probably not a good idea to go. So you can go later when all of those are relaxed and are gone. But on board the cruise ships, a mask is going to be a thing. I think it's what we're all facing when we leave our houses for a while.
I've been joking with folks that, most public places these days have rules of decency. You have to wear pants. And if you fail to wear pants, you're not allowed in the room, right? You have to have something on below the waist. And now we're adding another rule that for a while, at least, is going to take on that same sort of dimension that we as society or we as a private landowner, whichever the case may be, says, well, to come in this, no shirts, no shoes, no mask, no service, right?
Yeah. And it's just another layer. And you're right. If you don't want to follow the rules of a private company, then don't go.
Well, go to the clothing optional beach, right? I mean, that's the option.
From what I understand. So,
all right. Thank you so much, guys. Next Tuesday, 8:00, same time, same station. Who is it next week? I think it's Ryan and Stacy Lehman, I think, of TMR Tours. I'll check on that. Some quick housekeeping. If you go to Big Fat Pandemonium, PANDAMONIUM, or just in Facebook, Pandemonium, that's my group. You can go and join the Facebook group that Becky posts in there all the time. Alan, thank you very much for Mouse Planet. We appreciate you visiting with us.
Thanks, John.
And of course, Carol Stein, when she's back, hopefully at Disney, we got to go see her. Or when she's back at home, I got to get her back here with the audio. She's incredible. Go forth, create pandemonium, and above all, I still say give out hugs when you can, or at least air hugs. Becky, thank you. Alan, thank you. Guys, thank you. I will talk to you all soon.
Take care.
Later.